An aircraft carrier is built entirely of steel. No windows, no natural light, no open air. Below the flight deck, it is a world of narrow corridors, low ceilings, and compartments that never go quiet. Like living inside a cave, except this cave moves, and it never stops. Enlisted sailors share sleeping quarters with roughly 60 others, sleeping in racks stacked 3 high. Some go weeks without ever seeing daylight. The crew works 10 to 15 hours a day, every day, for months. Deployment means leaving everything behind: family, home, land, sometimes for 6 months or longer. And when conflict breaks out, this ship does not hide. It moves toward it. In times of war, an aircraft carrier faces threats from every direction: ballistic missiles from land, cruise missiles from ships and aircraft, drone swarms from the air and sea, and submarines hunting from below. This is one of the most demanding environments any human being can choose to live and work in. More than 5,000 people call this ship home during deployment. 1 in 5 of them is a woman. This is their story.
You have to remember that these ships, when they were built, they weren't built for an integrated crew. These ships were built for men. I wanted to be a part of something.
Well, to me, I'm happy that they made the change, because women can serve just as well as men, and sometimes better than.
You know, it just goes to show how far we've come. You know, from 25 years to now, me being here and excelling and succeeding.
So there's a lot of people before me that fought so that women can be on the ship. There's fighting for us to have the same equality as men. So yes, I have to stand up, and I have to do the right thing, and I have to lead by example, and I have to be an example for our junior female sailors.
Definitely makes me feel good and know that, hey, you know, senior leadership, they're doing it. You know, it's a chief warrant officer that's a female, she's killing it. You know, there's a master chief that's a female, and she's killing it. So just to see an example of what I can be in my career is just empowering in itself.
It's still not where I think it could be. It's still not quite where I think it needs to be.
I feel like there needs to be more women representing in the SEAL. I know a lot of people think it's so impossible, but no, it's not. You know, 25 years ago, they thought it was impossible for us to even be on a ship like this, and we made it happen.
I love talking to the junior women who know no other way. You know, they've only known an integrated Navy. And their male counterparts, the same thing. They've only known a Navy where we work together. And it's normal. It's normal for us all to be shipmates.
An aircraft carrier is more than jet engines and steel flight decks. Deep inside the ship, there are spaces that look nothing like what you see in the photographs. Clinics, laboratories, control stations, places where the work is not about physical force, but about precision, expertise, and making the right call under pressure. And in those spaces, women are not just present, they are in charge.
Hi, I am Commander Natalie Bacon, and I am the department head of the TR Dental Clinic. The entire staff works very hard. We work really well as a team, responsible for the teeth of 5,000 people. We're operational right now, and we are an operational command, so you always want to be dentally healthy. Otherwise, you could miss a couple days a week, or work, you could be gone for a week or so, or we could even have to CASEVAC you off the ship if your infection was big enough, and then that would all impact your shop and all your shipmates. So right now, we offer our regular dental exams. Like I said, every 12 months, you have to come down here. We do fillings, crowns, oral surgery, and dental cleanings.
Hi, I'm H1 Ramirez, and I am your Theodore Roosevelt dental hygienist. I've been in the Navy for 13 years, and this is my 3rd command as a hygienist. Being the only dental hygienist on board, it does make it tough to see every single sailor. However, I have trained 5 sailors in the dental department to assist me with cleanings. That's definitely going to help us get through as many sailors as possible for their cleanings this deployment.
We have 17 personnel work in dental. So myself and then 4 other dentists. We have our department leading chief petty officer. We have a hygienist and 11 dental techs. And then we service 5,000 members on board the TR. Overall, the team works super hard and it's a great team to be a part of. I appreciate what the staff does around here, and then I appreciate everybody's patience trying to get into dental, because right now we're flexing a little bit on our schedules and doing the best we can.
My name is Lieutenant Jennifer Rayner. I'm the medical admin officer on board, and I'm the principal assistant to the senior medical officer. We have a department of approximately 50 people right now that we're underway, and we've got air wing sailors on board with us. So X-ray services are available. We have a full service laboratory. We have 3 lab techs on board, and we run and process samples from urinalysis to blood work, any kind of chemical and biological testing that needs to be done, pregnancy testing, HIV. Of course, everyone has to come down for their annual HIV test. Everyone loves getting stuck with needles.
I'm AG3 Edwards. I was born in California, and I've been in the Navy since 2015. My role as an AG is technician. So as AG2 Johnson is a forecaster, I'm a nowcaster, and I take the weather that's all happening right now, real time. On a daily, I probably walk up about 50 steps of stairs every 30 minutes, taking observations. I put that all into our workstation, and we get the DA and PA for the pilots. They use that for takeoff and landing. The best part about being an AG so far on deployment was when we were having a big lightning storm, and I got to go out there and see the whole thing. It was the greatest part.
The oldest rate and the boldest rate is the bosun's mate, the fountain from which all other rates spring. The bosun's mate of the watch is the petty officer in charge of the watch, the most important enlisted assistant to the OOD. And the bosun's mate will be relied on to get the word out. I'm BM3 Cassandra Lariano, and I'm from Frederick, Maryland. I've been a BM for about 2 years. Before PA systems like the 1MC, words and information were passed by word of mouth. The bosun's mate would sound the call, and all his mates would gather. The word that was given to be passed by the BMAL would be received face-to-face, and sailors would disperse to pass the word throughout the ship. We have modernized from those days, and most information is passed via green sheet at quarters. So the BMOW will usually pass words pertaining to divine services, standing clear of an area for safety reasons, certain emergencies, and time bells. As BMO, I will help assist ensuring that proper phraseology is being used, that qualified personnel are proficient in executing their duties as ordered by the conning officer, and that our lookouts are alert and constantly relaying as much information as possible in the right format to the pilot house. The information that they relay to the pilot house can be anything from a man overboard, distress signal, or contacts in the air or water that may be friend or foe. When they are unsure of something, I step in and assist with training as necessary. I love it. I take extreme pride in that watch.
But not all of them stay inside. Beyond the clinics and the laboratories, the ship demands something different, louder, heavier, more dangerous. Keeping a 100,000-ton warship moving through the ocean requires people who can handle the noise, the heat, the risk, and the weight of knowing that one mistake affects everyone on board. They are there too.
I'm DC-1 Ochoa. I'm the leading petty officer of Damage Control Division, as well as the scene leader for Flying Squad. I'm a damage controlman, so I contain casualties, fight fires, floodings, toxic gases, pretty much every casualty that you can name on the ship. I direct and manage the flying squad when there is a casualty. It is an awesome experience knowing that I can protect the ship in any way I can by damage control, whether it be material condition, fighting fire, teaching the ship how to combat casualties. It's part of the experience, and I love every minute of it.
We're fairly dependent on the equipment, I would say. We have the LSOs there. That's their whole job, is if something fails or if you fail at following the equipment, they can tell you to stay on where you are and glide slope if you're high or low, or if you're off center line. Normally, you've had the sight picture enough that you're okay, but you definitely need the LSO backup to keep you from doing anything dangerous just because you're used to that reference. We always practice flying the ball, which is that lens that we reference, to make sure that we're not too low, not going to fly into the jet shop. But on the ship, it's obviously moving away from you, so it's a completely different experience. Being an LSO, you see mistakes other people make and you try to learn from them. Winds are changing every day, the boat's moving at different airspeed, so you kind of have to take in all those factors and ignore them actually, and just fly what you're used to doing, which is look at the lens that's telling you whether or not you're too high or too low, and then go from there.
I'd say it's the department that everybody in A school gets told you don't want to be in it because it's a grunt division. But to somebody who's new, they're gonna get the hang of it, and they're gonna be like, okay, this isn't so bad after all. We all have different personalities, so we all work great together in different ideas. Although sometimes we do get into it, but what person doesn't, So we all look at each other's point of views, and we'll have a couple of debates, but it's a nice division to be in.
Nobody really understands how important fuelies are. It may just seem like we just fuel things and that's all we can do, but it's like without the fuel, these birds aren't going anywhere to accomplish their mission. For RASs and stuff, all the equipment that moves, all those pallets around, all those need to get fuel in order to get the ship fed, moving all that food into the storeroom. We joke around about oh, flight deck's better, below deck's better, but if we don't work together, as a whole entire division, the mission doesn't get done.
The flight deck of an aircraft carrier has been called one of the most dangerous workplaces on Earth. Jet engines running at full power. Catapults capable of launching a 45,000-pound aircraft from 0 to 165 miles per hour in 2 seconds. Arresting wires that stop a landing jet in under 300 feet, wind screaming across the deck at 40 miles per hour, and dozens of people working within feet of all of it at the same time. In that environment, one color carries total authority: yellow. The aircraft director, the yellow shirt, is responsible for every single aircraft movement on that deck. Every jet that moves, every position it takes, every inch it travels goes through them. They do not use words, they use their hands. Because on a flight deck, words cannot survive the noise. No rank is displayed on their jersey. Only experience matters here. And on this deck, that authority belongs to her.
I am Senior Chief Ashton Hemphill, and my job is the Aviation Bosun's Main Handler. I've been in AVH for 16 years today, actually. In AVH, we launch and recover airplanes. We're the police of the flight deck, so anything that happens on the flight deck has to go through a yellow shirt. The way we communicate on the flight deck is we use hand signals, and we also have radios. We basically have our own language, and that's how we talk to people. Sometimes the pilots have to read our lips. Sometimes we have a hand signal where we're talking to somebody all the way forward to all the way back aft, and that's how we communicate. My favorite part of the job, we've been on flight deck for 16 hours, and we all come together after being sweaty and tired, and we're just all together, and we're just hanging out and kind of chopping it up, talking about the day, talking about our mistakes that we made, and holding each other accountable for the things that we didn't do the best that day so we can do better tomorrow.
An aircraft carrier is a weapon of war, and war has always been associated with men. But a weapon this large, this complex, cannot run on strength alone. It takes precision, expertise, endurance, and the willingness to accept risk. Those things have no gender. And the women on this ship knew that before anyone else was willing to admit it.
It'd be like the fact that we do RASs and we have to do unwraps and fuel and all that stuff like that, but we still have to go back to watch or go back to work. The day does not end at one evolution. We continue to have to persevere on. Even when we're tired, we see it go on. We're the backbone of the Navy. Man overboard, we're out there in the ribs, ready to drop it and save anybody.
Y'all can like walk, get to your most, no, we gotta run.
We run.
So they say that our job is only for males. Well, that's not true. Our job is for both, male, female, whoever it may be. You know, females can pull a line as much as the males can, you know? And the lines, they're not small, they're big. So,
They've only known an integrated Navy. And their male counterparts, the same thing. They've only known a Navy where we work together. And it's normal. It's normal for us all to be shipmates.